What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, the Man Welding, and today I want to talk about body positivity. That's right, body positivity. You guys, this is an interesting one, and I feel the need to speak on it, and once you reach the end of this video, you'll understand why. Now, I'm sure when most of us hear body positivity, we think of overweight people. We think of that being a liberal talking point, and we think of it as typically it's like annoying fat people who don't want to lose weight. And I think that is extremely unfortunate, and that is not what body positivity should be about. Now, I'm going to speak on something that I've never talked about publicly before, and that is the fact that I have psoriasis. And I have suffered from it for a very long time, and mostly it affects my scalp, spots on my knees, and my fingernails and my toenails. And for the longest time, I didn't know what I had. I didn't know I had psoriasis. I thought I just had really bad dandruff. And then I started having issues with my fingernails. And for the longest time, I thought it was like a fungal infection. And I went to doctors and I had them prescribe me all of these topical fungal treatments for my nails, and none of it worked. And then I had them prescribe me pills, to try to help with what they thought was a fungal infection. And these pills had massive side effects. They were hepatotoxic, meaning they were very bad for my liver. But I was desperate for a cure, so I took them to no avail. And eventually, I started doing my own research, and I met with different doctors, and I got diagnosed with psoriasis. And I have pretty severe scalp psoriasis. I have plaques on my knees, and like I said, my fingernails and my toenails are affected. And so I started to learn about psoriasis, and what I learned is that it affects, maybe like between 1% and 3% of the global population. And it's an autoimmune disease, and there's really no known cure for psoriasis as a whole. But there's a lot of information a lot of anecdotal information out there. People will say if you cut out gluten or if you eat a certain diet, some people swear by going vegan, some people swear by going carnivore, some people swear by doing an anti-inflammation diet. There's all sorts of conflicting information out there. And I don't say conflicting information being that one's right and one's wrong and that some information is misleading. I think that different things help different people. So you have to try different things and see what works for you. And I also learned that people who suffer from psoriasis are at a much higher risk for substance abuse and for depression and for, things like committing suicide. And as somebody who has psoriasis, I can understand why that's true, because it can be a very isolating condition to deal with, and it can cause a lot of insecurity in people who suffer from it. Now, luckily for me, I'm able to deal with these things, right? I've accepted that my nails look fucked up, and people are going to be not understanding of what's going on with them, and that I'm going to have all this like dandruff essentially in my scalp, and I'm going to have white shit all over my shoulders when I wear a black shirt, and that I'm always going to be scratching, and that, I'm just going to have to deal with that until I find what works for me as a cure. And that's how I want to tie this back to body positivity. What I think truly body positivity should be about is accepting people with conditions that are in large part out of their control. and why I have a problem with obesity being the poster child for body positivity is that in most cases, now I'm not going to say for every single person who suffers with obesity, it's because of their own decisions. That's probably not true. But I think it's safe to say that easily 90% or more of people who are obese and who want to claim themselves as part of a body positivity movement, they're fat because of the decisions they're making, and there is absolutely nothing stopping them from losing weight and becoming more healthy. And they use the term body positivity and the movement that it has become as a major way to cope with their inability to stick with a proper exercise and nutrition plan long enough to yield results. You know, I don't think it's unfair to say, now it might not be the nicest thing to say, and it might hurt to hear this if it applies to you, but typically people who are overweight are not disciplined. They seek immediate gratification using food. They're just not disciplined enough to eat less calories than they burn, and to, you know, inform themselves on proper nutrition, proper macronutrients. And, you know, you guys, anyone can lose weight. And if you don't believe me, just go online, and there are endless examples of people who were morbidly obese, who were fed up with the way they were living and having all these health problems associated with obesity, and they decided to make a change, and they stuck with it, and it wasn't easy and it wasn't fast, but they proved that it is possible. Whereas I'm going to contrast that to something that is specifically applies to me, which is psoriasis, right? I can't just diet my psoriasis away. I can't just exercise it away. You know, now, are there certain diets that could potentially alleviate some of the symptoms and some of the severity? I would like to think that yes, there is, but it's not as simple as calories in versus calorie out. It takes a very long time, and to be perfectly honest, a lot of the dietary recommendations for people with psoriasis are extremely, extremely, extremely restrictive. And people who want to make excuses for not losing weight will say, oh, well, dieting is restrictive. That's bullshit. And I'm just gonna be honest, that's bullshit. Maybe you have to restrict the amount of chocolate-covered donuts you're gonna eat every day, but in the grand scheme, that's not restrictive at all. That's just, I mean, that's like the bare minimum. You know what I mean? And I also want to touch on other conditions that people have. Like, before my dad died, he was in a wheelchair, and his physical appearance was, I don't even know the right words to use. Let me think about this, because I don't want to disrespect my father by saying this. I just want to tell the truth, right? Is, you know, he was in a rough condition physically, to the point when we were out in public together, it was obvious that the way he looked made people uncomfortable. And you know, me being his son and seeing other people's reaction to his physical appearance, it had an effect on me, right? I don't necessarily want to say that it hurt my feelings, but it just made me feel bad, right? And I know that deep down, people would be less likely to accept him based on the way that he looked. And, you know, I don't want to get really personal discussing all the details surrounding that, but it's like, if anybody should be able to benefit from the body positivity movement, it should be people who suffer from conditions that are outside of their control. Not people who are just fat and lazy and don't want to do the work it takes to be at a more healthy, more manageable weight. Now, one more thing I want to talk about is like, and I think this is a glaring example that goes majorly overlooked, is like height, right? We all know that short men are discriminated against in a variety of different ways, right? Most commonly is by women and their standards for a relationship, right? Now, luckily, I've been in a relationship long enough where I've never had to deal with this like fucking dating app type of situation. But I think it's pretty much common knowledge at this point that women prefer taller men, and short men are just going to be excluded from consideration based solely on their height. Now, is that very body positivity? I don't think so. You know, I think height is something that's completely out of somebody's control. And it's unfortunate that men get discriminated against in the dating market because of something that's out of their control like that. Now, you know, that might be a biological hardwiring in women to prefer taller men, and I'm not going to shame women for that, but, you know, it's just something worth mentioning while having this discussion. You know, another one being guys who are balding, or maybe even women who are having hair loss. You know, that is largely outside of someone's control. And if you're going to use someone's lack of hair as a way to belittle them or make fun of them or treat them as less than or less desirable because of it, it's not very body positivity. You guys know what I'm saying. So, in all reality, I don't really give a fuck. You know what I mean? I just thought it would be an interesting topic to speak on. So, just some food for thought, guys. If you got any opinions on the matter, I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. I'll catch you next time.